Okay, so this should be the last thing that you guys have in your notes. Now, I know we didn't get through all of it, but when we look at the articles of the Constitution, so we have the preamble, then we go into the articles. Article 1 is the legislative branch. It's number 1 for a reason, because the framers of the Constitution wanted to make sure that not that Congress is the most important branch, but things need to start in Congress. That's where the most representation for the people is. Okay, so Congress is a bicameral legislature, meaning it's made up of 2 chambers, the House and the Senate. Okay, the most important job that Congress has is to make laws. A bill is a proposed law. That bill has to go through both the House and the Senate, and then it goes to the president. If the president signs it, it becomes a law. If the president vetoes it, it goes back to Congress, and it takes a 2/3 majority in both houses to override that veto. Okay, and then the last part is what I don't know that we fully got through last week. Delegated powers. That's powers that's specifically given to Congress by the Constitution. Okay, so the ability to make war or to declare war. Okay, that's a delegated power. Everything else is an implied power, meaning it's just implied that Congress has that power.
It's hard, like, to look at all this since we're teaching government, like, dang, that's stupid, not even political.
No, there's nothing political about this.
Not this stuff, but like,
most of what we do in government isn't really political. We'll talk about the political process, but most of it is straightforward. It's from the Constitution. You know, Democrats or Republicans. This is the type of stuff that there's no debate on. Okay. Now, does anybody know what Article 2 of the Constitution is? Okay, an easy way to go through the first 3 articles of the Constitution. Think about the way a bill becomes a law. So first, it goes to the Congress, right? It's a bill, they write it. Then the next step, where does it have to go after that? Does everybody have this? Okay, so we don't know where the bill goes after it passes both chambers of Congress. Goes to the president. Which branch includes the president? The executive branch. Okay, hold on. So the executive branch, the job of the executive branch, it's the leader of the executive branch is the president. The executive branch, their job is to carry out the laws. So it becomes a law in Congress, or it's a bill, becomes a law of the executive branch, they carry out the law. So the executive branch is very different than the legislative branch, but there are many more people involved in the executive branch. So you have the president who is in charge of it. But we all know that the ability for the president to even be there comes from the people. So he has the strength of the monarch, but his authority comes from the consent of the people. Now the president will serve. The president will serve for 4 years, and then they can be reelected. However, both the president and the vice president need to be reelected in order to remain in office. Now, the way this works, though, is typically you will vote for the president and the vice president together. Okay, so it's not like, well, I'm going to vote for this president, but this vice president.
Okay, but if that happens, then would that vice president be the vice president and then the other president be the vice? So like if Trump won the election.
On the ballots, though, it's gonna be Trump and Pence, and then it'll be Biden and Harris. So you have to be voting for both of them. You know, if you're like, well, I like this president, but I completely hate this vice presidential nominee, you need to think about that, because there's a possibility that person could become president. Some of the things that the president can do. The president can make treaties with other countries, agreements with other countries. However, the Senate has to approve the treaty. Perfect example of this was the Treaty of Versailles. This ended World War I. The war's over. We have this treaty. Well, no, we're not talking about that yet. So the Treaty of Versailles, Woodrow Wilson is going to negotiate this treaty. You guys okay back there or what? Stop. So President Wilson negotiates this treaty. A lot of time is spent on that. The Senate, they just say, no, we're not going to ratify this because we don't like it. Now, the war's over, so it's not like there's anything that else is going to happen with the war, but we don't do that, and that's why we don't get into the League of Nations. The president may appoint judges. Okay, we know that's going on right now, right? President Trump has nominated Judge was Amy Coney Barrett, and now the Senate, they have to approve that nominee. When it comes to the legislative branch and what Congress can do, the Constitution is very specific on the job that Congress can do and the powers that Congress has. The Constitution isn't so clear on what the president can do. So basically, we just looked at George Washington and it was like, well, this is what George Washington did, so this is what presidents should do. And the courts have given some guidance on that, but really it's a matter of really more of tradition on what the president's going to do. We good here?
No.
Okay. All right, we good? Okay, so after the bill becomes a law and it's been carried out and all that, well, sometimes it can come up that maybe this law isn't constitutional. So where's it going to go then? Who decides whether a law is constitutional? The court system,
Oh,
the judicial branch.
I was told.
So, Article 3 is the judicial branch, and we have two different court systems in this country. We have our state court systems, and then we have our national court system. Now, the Constitution makes it very clear that Congress should not control the courts. Okay? It also makes it clear that the president should not be the one controlling the courts. So, because of this, we make sure that the president appoints judges and the Senate has to approve the judges. The ones that always get made a really big deal of are going to be Supreme Court justices. However, any federal judge, the president is going to nominate them, and it's going to be up to Congress to approve them, or the Senate to approve them. You guys writing this? Now, we know that the president, how long are they going to serve for? 4 years. Member of the House of Representatives, how long do they serve for?
4 years.
2 years. Senators, how long do they serve for? 6 years. A federal judge, which includes the Supreme Court, but other federal judges, they serve for life or as long as they show good behavior. So it is possible for a federal judge to be impeached. However, that's extremely, extremely rare. So they serve for life. All right, so they can't be just removed from office. The reason for that, Judge Judy is on TV. She's not she's a real judge. However, she doesn't serve in that capacity anymore. But anyway, so the federal judges, they serve for life. You know, we want somebody that they're not worried about politics. They're not worried about what their decision is going to mean for them later on. It's just, they just worry about their court, and that's it.
So what do they judge?
What's that?
Like, what are they the judge of?
Federal judges?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. So go to the very top, the Supreme Court. They have the final say on all cases. If a case gets to the Supreme Court, it can't be appealed again. Okay? When you're talking about just other federal judges and other federal courts, this could be a number of different things. It usually has to do with some type of something having to do with the federal government, a law that was made, things like that. Otherwise, it goes back to if it's a state versus state, or if a person's suing the government. That's stuff that federal courts are going to hear. Does everybody have this? Okay, so now we go to Article 4. Article 4 deals with the states. Okay, make it very clear that all states must respect one another and they have to honor other states' laws. Okay, so, that can mean different things. For example, so we're from Missouri. When it comes to driving a car in Missouri, I think the fastest you can go in Missouri is 70 miles an hour. Okay, you can go places out west like Utah where there isn't a speed limit necessarily. Okay, so can the Utah government say, no, you're from Missouri, you can only drive 70 miles an hour? No. Can the state of Missouri say, if you go to Utah, you can't drive more than 70 miles an hour? No. So it works the opposite way. So if you go to Utah, you would then follow their laws. Does everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it like in Illinois, you can't stay in the left lane, like it's strictly for passing only?
Yes, and that's most states.
Does Missouri do that?
Yes.
Oh, I don't follow that.
You just drive in the left lane.
Okay.
Why not?
For example,
No, I mean like on the highway, or like, you know what I mean?
yes, left lane is for
No,
passing.
on the interstate,
No,
not
no,
the
no,
highway.
Left lane is for passing.
I thought that you could just drive in the left lane. I thought the left lane was the pass lane.
For passing.
Passing, yeah.
Okay.
Why don't they just call it passing?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they should. But a marriage license. Listen, if you get a marriage license, okay, let's say you get married. You get married in Florida. Okay. Are you still married when you come back to Missouri? Yes. Okay. A license that is issued in another state has to be accepted and honored by all other states. All right, other powers that states have, all right, they are the ones that conduct elections. States are the ones that govern schools. And we'll come back to that one in a second. They regulate business, create local governments, assume the power is not given to the national government. So when it comes to governing schools, okay, we hear stuff like used to be No Child Left Behind. That was like a federal thing for schools. Michelle Obama had all of her stuff that she wanted for school lunches. And big thing was, you can't have any salt in school lunches. How can the federal government tell schools to do that when it's states that control schools? Any ideas?
No idea.
No ideas.
Because there's so many states that decided to pass that.
Why did they? Well, yes, why would they do that though?
Why would they keep salt out of school?
What's that? As an example, why would states go along with that when it's not the federal government that has that power? It's the states. Why would they give up some of that power? What are they looking for from the federal government?
Guidance?
Money.
Money. Okay, guidance is one. Technically, guidance, yes, but money. So they say, okay, if you're not going to do this, you're not going to get this money. Okay, so that's how the federal government can influence states. However, when it comes down to it, those powers are the ones that states are going to have. Everybody kind of follow that? Awesome. Okay, so we're going to be done with notes for today. We're going to take a look at a video. I will post that video also in Google Classroom for anybody that is at home.
I'll just tell Justin for you.
Thank you.